And a good morning and welcome to not only a new week, but an entirely new day. It is Monday, and I am so happy that you're on board with us this morning. Thanks for starting your day and your week with us. I know people are freaking out about the time change. It's only an hour. I think we're going to be just fine. Just make an adjustment on your end. We'll survive. The sun is shining, but clouds are coming in, and with it, some rain, and with it, some mild temperatures. We're looking at around 54 degrees today. Listen, I know that you don't have to be living under a rock right now to see what's happening in our nation, in the news, what's happening. I know what, tomorrow's election day. Things are sensitive right now. I want to bring on, because there is so much chatter about food insecurity right now with the stoppage of 3 squares and SNAP benefits. Carrie Staller from the Vermont Food Bank. Good morning, Carrie. How are you?
Morning, JD. Thanks so much for having me on.
Am I getting that right? Am I saying it right, Staller?
No, it's Staler, like
Staler.
stale bread. That's the best way to remember it, in case any of your listeners want to know how to say my name.
I'm so happy that you're on with us this morning. You've got a beat on this with the Vermont Food Bank. You're the government and public affairs officer. You must be so busy right now with everything that's going on.
Yeah, it has been a really, unfortunately, a very busy moment, for sure, trying to keep up with all of the changes and the updates and help translate that for people so they have real information to work from.
Yeah. Real information, which is often not conveyed accurately through social media. There's a lot of panic going on right now. Vermonters are really concerned, and it's the full gamut of Vermonters, from folks that are elderly to folks that are disabled who really rely on these SNAP benefits. And there's some grave concern about food insecurity right now. There has been, but now especially more than ever.
Yeah, well, as someone who's, been in this line of work for quite a while now, food insecurity is often something that is really behind the scenes. It's something that people know about in their own homes, but we don't really talk a lot about publicly. So I do think that the folks who have been experiencing this in their lives for, weeks or months or years, that conversation is just becoming more public. And I think there is a positive side of that for folks who haven't experienced that before, to really be aware of what, 10 or more percent of our neighbors experience at any given moment.
Yeah.
And it is really anxiety inducing and it is really scary. And if you've ever been food insecure, even if you're not right now, it can take you right back there pretty quick. So it can be, difficult for folks to talk about and to think about, but that is where I really feel like clear information about what is happening, what is available for help, and what people can do to help others are really the sort of 3 paths we have to get through this and to keep kind of calm and have a little bit more of a level head, and to know what we can do, regardless of, where we fit in that spectrum of experiences.
Yeah. Rumors are flying. There's free gift cards going out, free vouchers, free this, free that. Get it while you can. Once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, yeah, I know. I mean, it's amazing. DCF, as you sent to me some great information, by the way, which I'm going to be putting out all over the Aired Out Facebook page, says that over the next week, by November 7th, EBT cards are going to be working without interruption?
Yeah, you want to do a little myth busting together?
Yeah,
Let's get to
please.
it.
Please, let's do it.
Um, yeah, so I think we'll go back in time a little bit. And the reason this is all happening is primarily because of the federal shutdown. The federal USDA does usually continue to provide dollars to SNAP, which we call Three Squares Vermont here, even during a shutdown. In all past shutdowns, that is what has happened. That is not happening right now. As of Monday, November 3rd, 2025, the federal government is not doing what they usually do and putting federal dollars for this federal program onto people's electronic benefits cards so they can go to the grocery store and shop. Our state administration and our legislature took a look at that and said, oh no, that's no good. That does not work for Vermont and that does not work for Vermonters. And the state emergency board met last week and chose to partially fund benefits with state money, not federal money, for November. And they're doing that in in part because they are hoping that the federal government will end up funding people's benefits at some point this month. And so they are putting half of what folks usually get. You may have heard it said 15 days worth of benefits. You may have heard it said 50% of people's benefits. What they're really doing is if you get $100 every month, normally on the first of the month, you will get $50 as soon as DCF is able to process that. And their best guess is by the 7th.
Okay.
No later than that is when they think they'll be able to get that money on the card. Because it's state money and not federal money, the process is a little bit different. And we haven't done this before because we've never needed to.
Right.
So we're all giving them a little grace to figure out that timeline. And they knew they would need a little extra time to do that. So the emergency board also granted Vermont Food Bank $250,000, which we have distributed directly to about 55, 56 of our partner agencies. It was not enough money to go out to every single partner. So we prioritized folks that were in areas where um, where there are a lot of folks that use Three Squares Vermont, where there are higher sort of population areas, where our partners are sort of the key folks in that area where we knew partners were open this week. Some of our partners are really only open once a month. So we really took a whole, that was just that those are just sort of the top factors. There were a lot of other factors that went into that. And we distributed that money, and it's my understanding that most of that has already gone out to partners, and partners have already been able to go out and buy additional food with that. So that is really the sort of backstop at the moment while DCF gets those dollars onto people's cards so they can, shop like they normally do
And
at the grocery store.
that'll take 4 more days.
In theory, yeah, I think that's what they're sort of assuming. And like I said, no one has done it before, so I think they're really thinking like they'll be able to do it by Friday.
Okay. Wow. So, in the meanwhile, the Vermont Food Bank is going to be coming through, as you have done many times in the past. But what does that look like? In other words, folks listening right now who either rely on Three Squares or know someone who that does, outside of this 50% that's coming in on their EBT cards, not until 4 days from now,
Right.
where can they go to get food? I mean, Dan Moland is going to be on the air with me real soon over at Enough Ministries. Hopefully, a Capstone will connect in and they'll be on the air as well. But there's some great resources. But bottom line, where should folks reach out to get some supplemental food right now?
Yeah. So if folks already have a food shelf that they are familiar with and that they have used before and they're comfortable going to and they know where it is, that's your best option right now. Um, for folks that have not had to use food shelf resources before, they can call Vermont 211, and you just dial 211 and tell them where you live, and they will help you find the most, local resource to you. And if you're internet savvy, you can go online to vtfoodbank.org and click on the Get Help button, and that'll take you to a map, and for a find a food shelf part of that website, and that'll help you find folks that are local to you. And our website has things like open hours and the locations that are closest to you, so you can put in the town you live in, and it'll help you do that online too. But I know a lot of people, it's easier to call and talk to somebody, so we really like to recommend Vermont 211 because
Sure.
they do a great job helping connect people to resources. And I think the other benefit of that is that this is a sort of challenging time of year for folks. October was a really long month. So if you usually get SNAP benefits and they're used to lasting you like a normal 4-week month, October was 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So folks were already stretching what they had. And it's heating season. And we know that that can be really expensive. Like, all of us live here and have to heat our homes. And so sometimes calling 211, you can also talk to folks about some other support that you might be able to get in other areas to free up cash to use for groceries, and just sort of try to help put additional pieces in place to support you and your household if you're going through a rough time at the moment. And they're really lovely and helpful. So I would recommend that. And if people are feeling confused about their own benefits and what that might mean, they can either call the Department of Children and Families Economic Services Division, who is, our statewide entity who manages the Three Squares Vermont program, or we have a Three Squares Vermont team at the Vermont Food Bank who do application assistance, but can sometimes help troubleshoot if there's something confusing happening. So you can also find the contact information for them on our website.
All of this is so surreal.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I'm sure you probably didn't think that you would be having this conversation and deciphering all of this information in the past.
It was my hope to never have this conversation, JD. And I also recognize that like we're in pretty unpredictable times. And so um here we are.
Yeah.
Reality bears its ugly head again, and just trying to think about really making sure people know what resources are available to them. I know over the weekend I live in the Northeast Kingdom, and over the weekend I was helping my local community action agency, unload some of the food that they had purchased to stage it to make meal kits for people. Folks are really trying hard to make sure these resources are available for everyone who needs them.
Yeah.
So I think my biggest message to anyone in your audience who is worried is please don't hesitate to reach out to, organizations in your community that offer food assistance, because they are so ready and willing to help you.
Yeah. And right here in Barrie, there are several. I mean, the Heading United Methodist Church is just one of them. Capstone, of course, Enough Ministries. Dan Molin's going to be on the air with us. We're going to be chatting with him, who's a very busy guy right now. But I understand the Vermont Emergency Board is going to reconvene on November 13th, a few days after the 7th, and figure out where to go from there. And, of course, things could be different at that point with this contingency fund and everything that's coming down in the news, Carrie. It is so overwhelming.
Yeah, I think that's why the emergency board decided to do that second meeting, because they know that things are changing every day. There are a couple lawsuits that different states have brought against the USDA to try and get those contingency funds released. Vermont is participating in at least one of those. So, there is a lot of confusing information flying around, and part of it is because of the nature of the SNAP program, right? Each state implements it for sort of on behalf of the USDA in their own way. And so what we're doing in Vermont is different than what is happening in New Hampshire and Massachusetts and New York and our border states and other states across New England and certainly other states across the country. So it really does depend on what our own Vermont Emergency Board, decided last week and then what they end up deciding again on the 13th if those federal dollars are not released.
Great information. Carrie, thanks so much for your time this morning. I'm going to post up everything that we've already dropped links here in the comments to what we were talking about, but I'm going to post up a lot more information as soon as we wrap up this morning. And I appreciate your time so much. Can we reconnect here in another couple of days, another week or so, or whenever you feel the time is best?
Yeah, feel free. I'd love to come back. And I do just want to also, before I go, I would be remiss because I know that the area you're talking to and the folks you're talking to really want to take care of their communities. And so we've gotten a lot of questions about how people can help. And my answer to that is there's no wrong way.
Mm.
So if you want to give to your local food shelf or your local meal site, or you want to show up and volunteer, reach out to those organizations that
Yeah.
you know of and help them. They would all love your support right now. If you want to give in a broader statewide manner, you can give to Vermont Food Bank, and that will go to help all of our partners across the state. There's really no wrong door when it comes to helping in a crisis like this.
Thanks, Carrie, so much.
Yeah, and we'll be in touch. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you so much. VermontFoodHelp.com is another website to check out. Carrie Staler, right there, Government and Public Affairs Officer for the Vermont Food Bank. I know it's Monday. I know we've got a time change. I know that we're talking about, some pretty heavy topics this morning on the air with food insecurity. Let's dive in right now to housing insecurity. Larry Lozier is I would say, extremely outspoken local property owner, local landlord. And, man, this is a long time freaking coming here, dude, that you're on the air with me.
Great. Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you. I've known you for a long time. Everybody and their brother knows you, man.
Seems that way.
It does seem that way.
Yeah.
You've been a property owner and a landlord here in central Vermont for decades. How many years exactly? Almost.
What do we say, 55? 55 years I've been in Vermont.
Okay.
Came here when I was 11 years old.
And you bought your first property and became a landlord when you were how old?
27. 38 years ago.
38 years.
Yeah, hard to believe. I can't believe how fast that went by.
Holy
scary.
crap.
It's really scary.
You got gray hair now, bud.
It's been a great journey. I've been, it's been more like a hobby to me than work. I love what I do.
Yeah.
Deal is, I at 27, I realized, thanks to my father-in-law, which he was also a landlord, he kind of, deal is you want to think about your retirement. And at 27, I was, and I thought that, if I became a landlord and took care of the properties and got good tenants and, eventually you'd have a nest egg there. And that's what I've done. I'm at that point right now, and I can't believe how fast it went by. But, I've seen, so some hobbies I guess I could have bought cars and restored them, but I had to look at a residual income, and being a landlord, that is what that's about. It doesn't come easy. It's not something that you buy a property and sit back and just collect rent. Because some landlords don't realize what they're getting into when they buy a property. It's a hell of a responsibility. And you've got to know all the rules, the regulations. And, to be honest with you, when I got into the business, I was buying rundown shacks.
Yep.
When I was buying properties, I was buying units at $15,000 a unit. They were in really bad shape. But, throughout the years, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be my full-time job, and so I wanted to learn everything about it. With that being said, I've got my master's license in electrical. I got my plumbing license, specialty for limited plumbing. I got my oil burner and heating license. So I really worked hard so that I could take care of my properties. And I'll tell you what, in today's world, I, I'm it's really working out well because you can't find plumbers, you can't find electric. There's a real shortage of tradespeople out there.
Lily had her birthday party a couple of weekends ago, and in the morning, about 5 or 6 hours before the birthday party, when we had hundreds of thousands of kids at the house,
Wow.
we had a clog in the plumbing, and everything backed up into the tub, and it was just a smelly, horrible nightmare right before the birthday party. I spent probably 2 hours trying to find a plumber that would come out to my house,
That's what I'm hearing.
and failed. I never found a plumber.
You
I
didn't
was-
call me.
I was. It was a Sunday.
It was Sunday.
It
That's
was-
okay. I work every
But
Sunday.
when the shit hits the fan, isn't it always on a Sunday?
Oh boy.
Always.
Yeah.
Vet emergencies, plumbing emergencies. So, I was lucky in that that Aubuchon's was open, and they had, the high potency drain cleaner there, the commercial grade
yeah. They've got a-
sulfuric acid shit.
Sure. Wow.
But I lucked out.
Wow.
But you're right, though, man. It's like,
They got a little. They got like a balloon thing that you could put down in there and hook it up to a hose, and what it does is it pressurizes your plumbing system, and that works real well.
really?
Yeah, for anything from an 1.5-inch pipe all the way up to 4-inch.
Listen, I want to tell you, I want to just plug tomorrow's show, too, because Gabe Lajeunesse is going to be on with me tomorrow. He is, he's got quite a background, and he has started a podcast called The Abundance Agenda. The abundance versus scarcity competition, and we're going to be talking about this tomorrow. And I'm sure it's going to get your attention, and hopefully he's listening this morning. I can't wait to meet this guy. I can't wait to share a microphone with him. But he's taken a deep dive on the housing issues here in Central Vermont and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
This is a complex
Yes, it is.
issue.
Absolutely.
This is a really complex issue. And
It's a-
it wouldn't be right of me to have you on the air and not attempt to try to weigh both sides, because there's a lot of stuff that's going on here. There's a lot of shit that's going on, and you can't point the finger at one in one direction and say that's the root of the problem.
Well, I kind of disagree with that in a way.
Okay, go.
Sorry about that.
I
But-
don't want you to be sorry. I want you to be happy that you're here.
Well,
man.
okay, so in this business for 38 years, and also working for several landlords in this area, I got to know several landlords.
Okay.
And I was doing everything from electrical, plumbing, hauling garbage, you name it. I was doing a lot of work for a lot of different property owners. I started working for myself 25 years ago after I got laid off from working at IBM. And I just started doing maintenance. Before I knew it, I was doing everything from plowing to the whole scheme, on top of maintaining my properties. But what I started seeing is landlords, I saw the tenants they had, and, I saw the apartments that, were getting damaged, and tenants weren't paying rent, and so on and so forth. But in 2013, I was also working for my sister. Now, she was buying a building, and I would fix it up for her. I do, like I said, I'd go in there and work on buildings up to 8 months for her. And she ended up having she had a tenant that she gave this young couple a chance. They were they were living in a hotel room or maybe with an uncle or something. So she rented to them, and after a couple of years, they fell on hard times and they couldn't pay the rent. So what happened is when they couldn't pay rent, not only were they not paying rent, they were having additional people move there. They were taking in animals, so they weren't really following the lease. But anyways, what happened is they started getting months behind on rent, and she gave them, she said, "Well, you've got to move," and then that's when it went down seriously downhill. Those tenants turned into a nightmare. It took her 3 years to finally get them out. She lost about $20,000. So the first time that we went to court, because I've gone and I've done my own evictions, and I managed to get through, and I won both cases. So I figured I could probably help my sister because she didn't have the money. But anyways, I spent 2 weeks preparing for the case because at the time I was working on the apartment next door. It was a duplex, so I could see what was going on. And these tenants were calling Berry City, the inspectors, and complaining about issues. And my sister had no idea that they didn't even talk to her. They went to Berry City. So Berry City did an inspection. But anyways, these tenants put us through hell, absolute hell. JD, you see this whole case?
Please show it. Please show it all.
I want to, if I could show it.
Holy shit.
So I spent a week getting ready to help my sister. Okay, and there's a lot of paperwork there. But you know what? I was bound and determined these tenants had to go because they were being belligerent.
Wait a minute. What is that?
This is all the paperwork I prepared for a court hearing.
For that one?
For eviction, yes.
For that one?
For that one. Now there's three folders in there. One for the judge, one for the defendants, and ours, okay? So I know the eviction process. I know the laws. And if I could get my master's in electrical, to learn the eviction process is a walk in the park, really. There's not that much to it. But the problem is when you get to the courthouse, it's nothing but a big letdown. I mean, the first judge that we had, because you have a first hearing. The first judge I had, I sat with my sister at the table, and he says, "Oh, Big Brother's here to help you," and I said yes. So, which was fine. I got to the next hearing. There was Helen Torr. She was the judge, so a different judge. So I showed up. I went up there to help my sister present herself, because she didn't have time and she doesn't have the knowledge. Helen Torr said, "No, you can't do it. You can't represent your sister. You're not a lawyer." Well, I should have been listed as a plaintiff because I was heavily invested, and I believe I could have been part of the plaintiff. But you know what? Nope, can't do that. But you know what? The tenants had legal aid. Matter of fact, it was Jean Murray herself, and she was representing these tenants. Now, I won't mention their names, but he already been evicted once, and he was also he was listed on the
Sex offender. Right?
Sex offenders
registry
list. So I'm sure Jean Murray probably didn't realize that. But you know what? Legal aid turns things around. And my sister had a decent apartment. She gave them, and they turned in tenants from hell. They were destroying the place. They were creating damage. Then they were complaining about it. But anyways, this was when I thought to myself, who's representing landlords and who's doing anything to help landlords? And there was nobody. I mean, you've got Vermont. the Vermont Landlord Association in Shelburne with Angelo Zalkowski that leads that. And you also have a group, you have a landlord association down in Rutland. I belong to both of them. I also belong to a small group that we had around here. It was called the Central Vermont Landlord Association.
Yeah. Angela says we need faster resolutions and less red tape.
That's exactly right.
Landlords and tenants depend on each other, and without balance, we all lose. Those are words from Angela from the Times-Argus.
Absolutely, yeah.
Also in that Times-Argus article, it says tenant advocates see the issue differently. And you mentioned Vermont legal aid attorney Gene Murray, who says one of the main drivers of the Landlord-Tenant Law Study Committee pointed to rising rents and no-cause evictions as key drivers of instability. You've got a lot of weight that you're carrying on your shoulders, my brother. So why the hell are you doing this? Do you ask yourself that? I mean, the headline of the Times-Argus article says when Vermont landlords stop renting.
Well, did you notice how I've got?
We are already in a housing crisis, and if we have fewer Larry Loziers,
landlords
Tim
need
Jarvis,
a full-time advocate. And matter of fact, we just had a meeting here, and we were talking about that. You see, the landlords have nobody to speak for him other than Angelo Zalkowski. She's so busy, she's not even taking on more evictions. And because, so getting back to the case that I tried to help my sister with, Helen Torr she was responsible for tenants, all tenants now in ejectment cases, to have legal aid representation at landlord's expense. Well, I mean at everybody's expense. So here you've got a judge that probably hates landlords, and you've got a attorney that doesn't care for landlords. Matter of fact, in a conversation I had when we were talking, Gene Murray said, "You're not a very nice guy." Well, because she doesn't know me. You know what? She listened to all the lies the tenants told her. And matter of fact, I got thrown out of the courthouse. The tenant was lying up on stand under oath so bad that I put up my hand. I said, "Judge, could you please remind her that she's under oath?" And of course that didn't go well, but I had to say something. I couldn't just sit there. And then I raised my hand again, and then the police, the sheriff removed me. I'll tell you what, I felt so helpless, and I saw my sister there. She was so helpless. It was like a sheep with a bunch of wolves around her. And I think so anyway, JD, you understand I started the Vermont Landlord Group. I started to organize landlords. First, I started with emails. And I got up to about 150 emails, and a lot of these landlords were part of the Central Vermont Landlord Association. So between that and all the landlords I worked for, I guess I was just in a position of trying to do something to help landlords. So, JD, do you believe there's bad, nasty people in this world? Do you think there's bad people in this area?
Yeah.
There are. There's very bad people.
Yeah. I have a question for you, too.
Sure, go ahead.
Do you believe that there are horrible landlords and slumlords?
I'll have to say there are some landlords that get in the business that they really weren't ready to get into. They thought they were going to get into it and just make a lot of money and pay off their real estate.
Yep.
And no, there's definitely landlords that shouldn't be in the business. But
here in Central Vermont.
Yeah, but does that make them a bad person because they got into a business that they really the biggest problem is they get into a business and they need to get educated quick and they to get them up to speed. And that's why I started the Vermont Landlord Group, so that it and this is on Facebook now. We're up to 420 members.
Going there now.
You're not going to be able to go there, JD,
Why?
because at one time I was the administrator, because I'm the one that created it. My profile got hacked, and you know how there's settings on groups where it's not public.
Yeah.
So, and it's a closed group, just the landlords. But when my profile got hacked, it wasn't visible. I made it so it wasn't visible on Facebook. And that's and once I got hacked, there was no administrator in the group. I've got 5 moderators, but the only one that can make that change is the administrator. So here we got a group that's not visible. We can invite more people in, but it's a little more challenging.
Right.
So what I did is I started a whole new group,
Called?
the Vermont Rental Housing Providers. It was Mark Porter that actually started the group, because we talked about it for about a year before we pulled the trigger. I pulled the trigger about a year ago. And we're up to about what are we up to? Almost 200 members at this point.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I just don't have the time I had 10 years ago or 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I created the Vermont Landlord Group. And the thing is,
8 years ago?
Yes. So the idea of creating this group is to help landlords, educate them. If there's laws coming down the pipe, to make them aware of it. So it's just a huge blog. If they needed a plumber, painter, or whatever you have, and they wanted to know, Now, this is Vermont. This isn't just Central Vermont.
Right.
This group that I created was the whole state of Vermont. So we got landlords from all the way Burlington, Rutland, up at Derby line that just and a lot of these landlords is I found that I invited landlords. I just talking, and find out their landlord, invited them to the group. So the other thing is,
wait a minute. What is it called? Vermont Rental Housing Providers?
The Vermont Rental Housing Providers.
Okay. And is it on Facebook?
Yes, it should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is. It's closed just to landlords. So the other thing is, we have 3 moderators that have to approve membership. So this is how we are. Well, let's just say we're organizing, and the only reason we're organizing is because landlords have been exploited. They've been abused. The court system, the eviction process is it's a nightmare to go through. When it's so complicated that even hiring a lawyer, sometimes cases get thrown out because they forgot to dot an I or cross a T, or they didn't have a sheet of paper. And I know this firsthand because we've talked about it in our group. So thank God Helen Torr and another one is Mary Teachout. They're no longer, they both retired. And I'll tell you what, that's the greatest thing, because they were definitely pro-tenant and not landlord. And I say this because, JD, you got to understand, the other thing I would do is I would kind of support landlords that were going through difficult times with the tenant. So I would go to the courthouse, and while I was there was always different cases. A lot of times they try to pull all the cases up on one day just for landlords and tenant issues. Primarily probably back then because, like Angela Zalkowski, she had to come all the way from Chittenden County to represent. So they tried to get them all, I believe, on Tuesday or something.
Yeah.
So while I was there, I was watching other cases. I've seen even, a local landlord that I'm sitting there, just watching the case, and it got thrown out because he didn't make the one of the housing authorities that the check was coming from.
Right.
He didn't let them know. So landlords, I mean, it's this eviction process is very complicated, very expensive, and it's putting landlords out of business.
Yeah.
In some cases, landlords are they're losing their properties because of it.
I have family and friends in other states who have reached out to me. Here's where I knew that I'm like, holy shit, wow. Where family and friends in other states have sent me text messages over the last couple of years, or we've spoken where they've been like, hey man, how's it going up there? It's cold. Yeah, I hear you guys are like, everybody is homeless. I mean, this is like, this little state of Vermont is getting, dare I say, some national recognition that, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other states that are having housing crisis.
Oh, definitely, sure.
But man, it's like the word's out on Vermont, man. This is like, we've got to figure some shit out and stop. We just need to like figure it out and stop pointing fingers. We need to all
something has to be done.
Something's got to be done.
You know, JD, we've been talking about this for. I mean, when I first joined the Central Vermont Landlord Group, we used to have meetings. I think it was last Thursdays, and that was run by Herbie Heath. I'm sure you know Herb. Yeah. Everybody knows Herb.
Yeah.
He's
Happy
like
Herb.
82. He's been a landlord forever, and I think it was 2 years ago. He actually wrote up a petition. You know, him and we talked about how are we going to get the point across to these legislatures. So he drafted up a pretty good, a very nice petition, and we had like I think over 300 signatures on it. And then he had it all emailed to all the legislatures. And right at the time, Vermont was known as one of the least friendly states in the union. I've got the petition, and that was documented. So, anyways, yeah, I don't know what these legislatures. They just need to realize, you know, landlords aren't filthy rich with deep pockets. You know, I personally know like 5 landlords that have lost properties because they could not deal with the tenant and deal with the court process. Lost their properties. Yeah. I'm talking, and senior citizens.
You can be a scumbag tenant and get away with way too much.
There's no consequences. Well, there wasn't before.
Yeah,
but I think in today's world that's changing.
Is it squatters' rights?
No, there's Well, okay, I'm glad you brought that up because there was one landlord that had an apartment for rent. So we showed it.
You can go months.
I could
without paying rent.
Oh yes, years. Yeah, well, not years, but maybe up to a year. I just was talking to a landlord recently. His son bought a property. There were people living in it, and the past owner gave these tenants a notice to move because the new owner didn't want them in there. They were going to tear the place down. Well, it took this landlord a year to get possession so that he could tear it down. A whole year, and he didn't collect any rent.
You and I both know a landlord, and I'm not going to mention his name, that had someone for 2 years.
What?
Had someone for 2 years that couldn't get him out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
2.
I've got landlords in my group that say they've had tenants for 3 years.
But if you kill the electricity on the unit or you shut the heat off,
you're in trouble.
As a landlord.
Oh, you can't do that. You can't do any of that.
So who pays the bill for that electricity?
Well, the landlords have to keep paying for all the utilities, heat, everything, whatever was included, not electricity, because most of the time the tenant has the electricity in their name. There's a property just down here.
Shit, dude.
You know, JD, I could tell you more.
Larry, that's horseshit.
It is. There's a property that a landlord just bought, the one right next to Napa, You know that big building
Yeah.
next to Napa, across from Crown
Yeah.
Home.
Of course.
The landlord that had it probably 10, maybe 12 years ago. Bought it. He ended up with a bunch of terrible tenants in there, druggies. They weren't paying rent. They were trashing the place. They lost their power. I went through the place. The refrigerators were full of maggots and fly. The place had feces from their pets. It was terrible. He paid when he bought that building for $35,000 because the landlord said, I can't take this anymore.
I just want out.
I want out. And if you drive by there, it's not the same place. Matter of fact, he's a landlord that's in my group, and a very good friend of mine. But he paid the tenants to move. He paid them because rather than going through the bullshit eviction process down at the Washington County Court, or any of them for that matter, you're better off to pay these tenants to move.
Holy shit.
So you're pretty much rewarding them. But the problem now that we're having that we didn't have 10, 20 years ago, there's no place for these people to go. You've got a whole new breed of landlords now that are doing their due diligence. The old mom and pops are retiring. So I could go on and on and on. I don't know how much more time. We got to hold 10 minutes. But let me tell you about this one case that I got to tell you. And this is one reason why I started the group. When you have a tenant, a deplorable, now this is we got this saying. I got this saying, the dirty dozen. Now these dirty dozen are professionals. They get in the damn apartment. They know they're not going to pay rent, and they take advantage of the young, naive, gullible landlords or the senior citizens that don't have access to the internet. They're not computer savvy. One of the last ones was a 84-year-old landlord. She gave this guy, she rented an apartment to him. This guy had been evicted 8 times already. This guy right here was one of the most deplorable tenants, drug dealer, just a nasty person. 8 times he's already been evicted. When I found out she had him, I said, boy, you've got to get a lawyer. You got to, So she did. She hired a lawyer that was not very familiar with the tenant landlord laws, and he was terrible. Took her a year to get that piece of out, a whole year. Now the property, I posted some pictures.
Yeah,
you probably saw how nasty.
I've seen them.
Bed bug infested trash. And this poor lady ended up selling the property to another landlord that is in my group. And now there's a new sheriff in town. She does a great job. Samantha Hiscock. You know her because she's been on here with J.D. Green. Rex Thompson.
Yep.
So she's cleaned the place up. She's got good tenants. And this is what's happening. So these bad tenants are not able to find the landlords of the past. It's new landlords. So the thing is, we have to, because of the eviction process, JD, how brutal it is, unreasonable, unethical. We as landlords have to raise our standards in order. We have. For instance. We never got first month's, last month's security. I won't rent an apartment now unless I get all 3. Why? Because if I have to go through the eviction process, I know how costly it's going to be. But I've only had 2 evictions in 38 years, JD. So This isn't about me. This is about what I've seen.
We're showing some of the. If you look at your monitor,
right
there,
yeah, sure.
We're showing some of the pictures here. But, so this is how you found it?
Yeah. These are pictures of what is left. And granted, you go in there, clean the place up. But, when you got bed bugs, you know how expensive that is? You got to have the whole building heated. You're looking at, I think it's like $2,000. So how much can a landlord absorb? I mean, do you have $20,000 in your bank that you could just lose? The thing is, this is the problem. Landlords need more rights. We need more rights so we can control.
That's it.
We can
You
control
are spot on,
what's
brother.
going on.
Amen.
And they come now. These legislatures or these advocates for tenants and like Gene Murray, they want to take our rights away so we can't control our business. You got a bad tenant now. When you've got a tenant, so let's take 2nd Street for instance. There was drug dealing going on there. It took, I think, over a year to get that tenant out. So the whole neighborhood is suffering. The other tenants in the building are suffering. But here we can't get rid of this tenant because they've got legal aid representing them and they've got more reasons to stay there. So they've complicated to the point where landlords are just saying, some landlords are saying, that's it, I'm done. I'm not renting the other side of my duplex out anymore. There was 5 landlords on Air Street alone that had duplexes that didn't rent the other side because they didn't want the headaches, and they didn't need the rental income to, in order to pay their bills. So
I'm looking at this.
When is it going to change?
This fridge picture
Well,
is killing
yep.
me now. Jesus, God, Larry. That I'd see something like that, I'd want to throw the whole fucking fridge right away.
I think the worst case. I
Jesus.
think one of the worst cases.
Look
Did
at
you see
that.
the video I put on with Nightmare on Elm Street? Now this one here, you got to hear this one. So, a fellow landlord rented to these people they gave him $25,000 down. They were going to rent and then with option to buy. So after they got in there, he never got another nickel. And he called me, he stopped by the house. He said, Larry, you got to come and see this. So we went to Williamstown. The place stunk so bad I couldn't go in. They had 7 dogs and a goat with kids in there. Legal aid represented these people. Deplorable. Part of the dirty dozen I was talking about. She'd already been evicted once. And you know what? This guy looked at the $25,000. He says, wow, I got $25,000. They're going to be great tenants. They weren't. He had to end up paying them back the $25,000. Now, he had a lawyer. He had a lawyer, too. He had to pay him back the $25,000. Never got a nickel for all the months that they didn't pay him. And the place was absolutely trashed. Now, that's bad enough.
Like condemnable?
What?
Condemnable?
Oh, it was. They couldn't. He had to go in there and he had to take more loads of garbage. The whole place was full of garbage. You go on the video. You must have seen my video.
I haven't. I will though.
I posted it just recently.
On your personal page?
Yes.
All right.
And then on top of that, guess what? She goes and moves to Middlesex, and she did the same thing to another property owner, and they walked away they lost the place. Now, you wonder how I got all this information is because I dug and I did research. I talked to landlords, and this is coming firsthand. This isn't hearsay. So, we got a real problem in this state, and I don't know what it's going to take to revamp it. Because this is just terrible. So there's 2 sides of the story. The public gets to hear is the tenant side. They don't get to hear the landlord side.
Why do you do this, Larry? Why are you still subjecting yourself to this?
Because I can afford to. Because I make the time. And because it's not right. I mean, it's really not right what is happening. And these are not, I don't know how many other cases. I mean, since I started this group, the other landlords chime in and they tell they tell their story. So, but you know what? Landlords, they want to lick their wounds and they want to just move on. I mean, my own sister won't lift a finger if her life depended on it
Yeah, neither would
to
I.
get the story out.
Oh, okay. Really?
Well, it just, landlords are busy. They're working a full-time job, and then they've got actually doing the landlord businesses. That's a job in itself. I used to work 8 hours at IBM, then I'd come back work another 4 every night for years to get where I'm at. But it's paid off.
Any other landlords that you can think of that would be willing to come on the air and blow the whistle? Would Happy Herb? I know Tim Jarvis has been on.
Yeah, Happy Herb, he would probably love, I don't know. I'm sure Samantha Hiscock would love to come on. She's very knowledgeable. She does a good job. She's more knowledgeable than I am in today's with the eviction process. She had a case thrown out because she didn't have there was one document. Why is the judges dismissing the case and throwing it out because of one little technicality? They won't do that with the tenant. The tenant cannot answer a complaint, and that gets overlooked. But not with landlords. We're held right to the T. It shouldn't be that way. That's biased.
What do you need to do as a landlord with other landlords? Do you guys need to protest on the State House lawn? I mean, what do you need to do to be heard, Larry?
That's probably what we need to do. But to get landlords to get involved, to do something like that. So we're starting to have meetings again. So we had a meeting here. 10 landlords showed up out of 400. It's like, come on, people. If you want to get things better, make things better, you got to make an effort. I think basically they're running their business differently, but what I think is happening, or getting educated, doing a better job of screening, and I think this is what's increasing the homeless situation. I don't think, I know it is.
Samantha just commented here saying I could probably talk about this for hours.
Yes.
I have some amazing tenants, but I've also had some really awful experiences from people that I have given a chance to and really tried to help.
The thing is, there's nobody talking for the landlords. There's nobody representing the landlords. And I guess that's, well, thank you for having me on, on today.
Larry.
Because somebody's got to do it, JD, and nobody's doing it.
I'm hoping that you'll come back on really soon, and maybe we could get a few other landlords.
I would be happy to.
The Times Argus article, and it says right here, and I'll share it. Vermont's housing shortage has reached a breaking point. The state's 2025 through 2029 Vermont Housing Needs Assessment links record low vacancy rates to a sharp rise in homelessness, which has tripled since 2019. 2019? That was yesterday. As more property owners step away from long-term market, one question grows harder to ignore. What can be done to make landlords feel supported enough to stay? And then they talk about you, that you've rented apartments for 38 years, and you have rarely had to evict a tenant because you read people well, Larry.
Well, I a lot of it has to do with luck. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've only had 2 evictions, but one time I had a traveling nurse, and I thought, working professional. She's got to be great, you know. I don't allow smoking in my bill. I don't rent to smokers because the damage it does and whatnot. But anyways, I rented to her after she filled out an application. She said she didn't smoke. A week later, she was starting to complain the hot water wasn't. I said, "Oh, here we go." I go in there. There's 2 packs of Marlboro on the counter. So she lied to me. She lied. Now, this is a traveling nurse. She said that she got evicted because her son was being, playing his music loud or whatever. So, but I gave her a chance because it was just her. So I'm down in Florida. I'm getting calls from the other tenants. Hey, there's some guy playing his music at 11 o'clock at night, waking us up. So you know what? The deal is, what do you do as a landlord? I call. Of course, I called and told her, got to knock that off. And what's he doing there? But the thing is, when you have a problem tenant, do you really want to go down and start an eviction? So right off the bat, you're going to pay $250. I think maybe it's more than that now. Then you got to pay a lawyer retainer fee of $1,000 to $2,000, and then you got to wait for the court date. I mean, this eviction process is just. This is why landlords are being very particular on who they rent to now. We can't afford to go through an eviction.
So why continue to do it? I come back.
Why continue to what?
To that question. Why continue to own properties and rent them out? If you're continuously,
JD, after 38 years,
you're not getting any support from the state.
Well, because I don't. When I find, I do a screening process. You know, you got to make sure that they can afford. You've got to make sure that everything they tell you is the truth. You got to almost be a private detective.
Well, yeah, but if they tell you that they're, they could have great credit, but if they tell you that they're a non-smoker and then they're smoking and the boyfriend moves in and he's blasting his music at 11 o'clock at night, you've got to be able to have some leverage.
Yes.
As a landlord.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine being in your position. I'd be down in Florida on vacation or whatever. I'd get a phone call like that, and I'd be like, fuck this. I'm done with this.
Okay, so this is part of the reason why I started the group. For that one reason. Landlords need leverage.
They don't have
How
any.
do you get leverage?
But they don't have any, Larry.
Well, you get leverage by holding tenants accountable. What do I mean by that? Is when you organize, network, how hard is it or how easy is it for that tenant to get into another apartment? So I think, this is the reason why I said we need to start organizing to keep the dirty dozen out of our apartments. Now, when I say the dirty dozen, I'm talking about the guy who's been evicted 8 times. I helped a landlord. He had to clean the apartment out. I took out that apartment. I like I said, I do a little bit of everything. I got a dump trailer. I would pull it up, let people fill it up, and I hauled it to the dump for them. So I offered to take garbage away. This landlord took 6,000 pounds of garbage out of that apartment. That tenant was going around getting garbage apparently and throwing it in the cellar. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? And this guy had been evicted 8 times, now 9. So what needs to be done to stop this, people like this? And it comes down to organizing, networking, and that's why I started the Vermont Landlord Group. And I tell you what, I have to say, JD, it's probably got something to do with not only the group, but it's the whole thing. We have property managers now, Stone and Browning. A lot of landlords don't trust themselves, so they hire Stone and Browning to screen tenants for them. Now they've got all the tools in their toolbox for the screening process, and chances are, if they give a okay on a tenant, it's a good person. Very rarely have I heard that somebody ends up with a bad tenant after they've been screened by Stone and Browning. And then there's other rental companies as well. So,
but we all agree that I think most of us do anyway, that screening is great. Screening is screening.
That is
however,
most important thing you could do as a landlord.
Okay.
And you've got to verify all the information that these tenants give you.
Sure.
In other words, don't be afraid to ask for the driver's license.
Yeah.
I mean, I ask for everything now.
Yeah. What do you ask for? Criminal record?
No, but I do go, I've got a web page I can go to and do, background checks.
Okay.
Just basically Google their name.
Yeah.
Everett Simpson, for instance. He was evicted 3 times in this area. He's part of the Dirty Dozen. This guy went to New Hampshire. He raped a woman with a child. He picked her up, brought her to a hotel, raped her in front of a child. Everett Simpson. Now, that guy rented from 3 landlords in Berry City. And, it just, something had to give. So the last landlord that he rented from was a nice lady. She worked at Capstone. She called up Tommy Walls. He was a representative. What do I do? He says, call Larry. So I went to the house and supported her. I told her what she had to do. These are the steps you've got to take. You've got to do it immediately. So after I did some of my research, found out that 2 other landlords had been evicted this guy. So that told me the only way we're going to stop these Dirty Dozen from going from landlord to landlord is we need to organize. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, are the names of the Dirty Dozen well communicated amongst the Vermont landlord group?
Sometimes.
It should be all the time, bud.
Well, it should be. It should be. Absolutely right.
I mean, this should
But landlords are,
this should be really transparent.
It should be. Absolutely right. I mean, is it right for an elderly person to be abused and, not get her rent and then be having a disgusting, deplorable tenant that tells this lady to F off?
Yeah.
And I've witnessed it.
Is it worth all of it, though? I mean, you wouldn't be doing this if you're not making some kind of profit margin.
I'm not making anything. I take that back. At one time, I asked for donations, and I had a handful of landlords that donated $100, and I was looking only for $20. Hey, if you could throw $20, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many tens of thousands of dollars I've lost doing what I do. I'm serious. I'm surprised I'm not in divorce court because my wife.
Are you married?
Of course I am.
So she's saying what now?
Yeah, she says, that's it, Larry. You've got to,
How old are you, Larry?
What?
How old are you?
66.
Okay. How many members of the Vermont Landlord Group do you have? How many members?
420.
That are part of that?
Part of the group. They're in the group.
And it's on Facebook.
Yeah. But that group, the Vermont Landlord Group, is not visible. It's not public. It's you couldn't even find it.
Okay.
If you were a landlord, I could invite you into the group, but we got to be friends. So it's a little more challenging.
Okay. Should we do a podcast episode where we sit down with you and 9 others? Maybe get Samantha in here and sit down and blow the whistle.
Yeah, it could. We could do that.
Why isn't there a bill that has been created?
You know what? I proposed a bill. This was several years ago, and matter of fact, Tommy Walls supported it. And the bill was that I presented is when a tenant has a serious habitability issue, a landlord shouldn't have to give them 48 hours to go in, which we don't. But in my sister's case, every time somebody went over there to do any work, oh, we're leaving, you can't come in. And they constantly did this. Matter of fact, JD, would you believe? Okay, so I could do almost anything under the sun. Matter of fact, I rehabbed the apartment they were in. New kitchen, new bathroom, new windows, new doors. And the way they made it sound, this place is such a shithole, we can't afford it. We're not paying you rent. Well, you know what? Gene Murray took all those lies, presented them in court, and my sister, we lost the case. We had to go back to court. She hired Angela Zolkowski, and the second time we won everything. I mean, we got the writ of possession, and they had to go out. But for the first time, would you believe Gene Murray of Legal Aid charged my sister $2,500 for her time, and she had my sister sign a document that puts a $2,500 lien on her property, so that it will have to be, as if she didn't go through enough. And then the second time, when she had a lawyer, she won everything. But do you think she got a nickel out of those tenants? No, nothing. Very rarely. Landlords aren't getting, even when they get the judgment, the landlords don't get that judgment. You can't. You can't get blood out of a stone.
Show those files next to you. Show them on camera again. You got all kinds of numbers written on the front of it. I want to know about that. What is this?
What is this?
What is this?
This is so when I was in court, and like I said, and this case, I'm telling you, this was not an easy case because they were throwing everything at us that they could. They were all these violations and everything, and a lot of them they were creating.
Turn it a little bit so that we can see just a little bit of what's inside.
Can you see that?
Yeah. Holy shit,
Yeah.
man.
And that was one case. I tell you, I wanted to be prepared. I wanted these tenants out.
That's just one case.
That's one case.
One.
But again, there's a lot of, there's lease agreements, there's laws, there's lead laws. That's the other thing. They claim the kids had lead poisoning. These tenants, I wouldn't put it past them. They were probably feeding the kids lead paint in their cereal. There was I think Ed Durgan came all the way from Burlington because I talked to him. He was head of the lead abatement or the lead laws. He was a head one. I talked to him. He said he went to their apartment twice to do an inspection, and he said they wouldn't answer the door after driving an hour twice. So this is what I can't even start to explain to you what how bad. And this is retaliation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, on here it's Barry Sidney ordinances, Renton in Vermont, lead laws, violation letter, pictures from Barry. I mean, this case was like overwhelming. And matter of fact, these tenants, when they're just recently they're being evicted again. I just saw. And whether they were actually evicted or not, I think the case was what's the word for it? It was closed.
I just posted up a quote from your Facebook page from October 20th saying, landlords work hard to provide a nice, clean, safe, secure apartment for their tenants. Unfortunately, some tenants don't respect or follow the lease. I can tell you that it takes the wind out of your sails and is sad that it takes an act of Congress, thousands of dollars to terminate the lease with a problem tenant. I gotta say to you, Larry, again, I mean, it's like, God bless you, brother. And I mean this with the utmost respect, but it's like, I would not be doing what you're doing, buddy. I mean, I just wouldn't be.
What's the saying?
No way in
evil
hell
will prevail or triumph if no good men sit back and do nothing.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. I just don't get it. There needs to be. We do need an advocate. Landlords need an advocate.
But why is there not?
Or a lobbyist, rather, a lobbyist. And we were just talking about that at the meeting that we had here.
Is there a bill? Yes or no?
No, there's no one.
Is there a bill in the Vermont legislature that gives landlords some real rights?
No,
some real leverage?
They want to take more rights away from us. Oh, just recently they just passed a bill. We can't require a tenant to give us their Social Security number.
What?
So how in the world are we going to do a credit report? So there you go. There's one.
What?
The other thing is they don't want to allow us. I thought this went on to just 10 o'clock.
Buddy, we're going as long as we need to go.
Okay.
This is a really,
So-
seriously, this is a really
It has been, and
bad.
it's been long overdue. And I
Hey.
think we have people down there. They're soft-hearted, gullible, naive, and they just let's put it this way. This is what Happy Herb told me. I said, and this is the way he explained it. So you got the judge sitting up there. He's looking at the family. Maybe with the kids sitting there, and then they're looking at the landlord. It's a very distasteful job to make the decision to put those people out on the street. Who would want to do that? But you got to understand, the judges need to understand the landlords have already exhausted every revenue. I mean, we don't kick tenants out because we just don't have anything better to do. We've exhausted every remedy, everything. We've tried to work with them. We've been patient, and push comes to shove. Hey, something's got to give. I can't let you continue staying in this apartment while you trash it. You're not following the lease. So, and then we get down to the court, and I can't tell you what a disappointment it is that the loops they make you jump through. So a buddy of mine he had probably close to 10 units in this area. He just recently went through an eviction process. He says, that's it, I'm done. And you know what? He sold both his properties, and he has he's got a big property over in New York. Now, this is another landlord I've done maintenance for years. So he's a landlord in New York. You know what? He sends his maintenance guy to the courthouse to start the eviction process. They give him all the documentation to get it going. But here they fight a landlord tooth and nail. I've seen it firsthand. So years ago, now we're talking 38 years, I've seen a lot. So the Washington County used to give you samples of paperwork so that landlords could do their own eviction. You could type it all up. But they have complicated it so much that you've got to have a lawyer. And this is the other thing, because legal aid represents all tenants now. A lot of lawyers stopped representing landlords because of the complication. They know how legal aid's going to draw this out. Yeah. They know and so they're doing, real estate. We'll do closings and stuff like that. So I know at least 2 lawyers. They don't do evictions anymore. So there you go.
Just got a message here from Kimberly saying, Zoom meeting, Larry. That's the way to go for us landlords.
We've tried that. We've done that. We've had Ken Hepburn. He was very savvy at that. We tried to do the Zoom meetings, and the last one we had, it was just Ken and I. And I said, that's it, I guess, I don't know what it is. If landlords aren't doing very good, it's because you don't put your time in. You need to put your time in. In any business to be successful, you've got to put your time in, and you've got to do it right, and you've got to do a good job.
There's room on that couch right there for 2 more landlords if they want to come in here and sit with you.
Yeah. Well, if you want to have this conversation again, I let everybody
Larry, of course I want
all
to,
the landlords.
You and I have been talking about going on the air together for
2 years.
Seriously.
I don't see any police out there ready.
God.
You said they're gonna
Listen,
haul us away in cuffs.
I had to have a shot of Jack Daniels this morning at 6:00, knowing that I was going to have you on the air with me this morning.
Well, anyway, thank you, JD.
Listen,
Like I said, this is a long time coming. I started that group 8 years ago. 8 years ago.
The Vermont Landlord Group.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is no longer. I'm trying to get the landlords to come over to the new group.
All right. Which is the Vermont Rental Housing Provider
Yes.
Group?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the one you want me to push, to promote?
This is only for landlords.
I understand.
This is not open to the general public.
I understand that. But that's the one you want me to push for other landlords.
Oh, well, if anybody wants to join, the thing is, see, we have to screen and make sure whoever is coming into our group, they're
He's
actually
really a landlord.
landlords.
Yes, of course.
And so we've got 3 moderators in the group and myself and, Samantha and also another guy is the administrator. We got 3 administrators now.
All right.
So I'm hoping, but if anybody wants landlords that want to join this group, it's a wonderful thing because the deal, and this is open to all landlords in Vermont.
Keep holding that up there.
The reason that this is such a great group, there's a lot of great landlords in there with that have been landlords a lot longer than me, with a lot of knowledge. So it's about helping landlords, deal with the issues that we're having.
I'm typing as fast as I can here. 223-4583.
That's it. They can call me direct, and we'll see. The more the merrier in the group. The deal is, if we don't really. What landlords will do is, let's say you've got a tenant that just you had to evict and they trash the apartment. We don't get into details, but we do offer a reference for that person. And it's a wonderful site because, you go to the top with the search. Mm-hmm. You just put whatever it is you want to know about. If you want to know about a plumber, all the conversations will go to the plumbing. If you put a name in there, if any landlord, we might say, hey, have you ever rented to so-and-so?
Yeah.
And, when you got 400 landlords and they see that, chances are maybe 1 or 2 of them.
Sure.
There was a post I just posted the other day where one of the landlords, matter of fact, so he just got possession of his apartment. And he put the name right on there, right on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so there was,
I mean, Crystal's asking right here, can you give us the names of the Dirty Dozen? Let me ask you this. Would you give me the names of the Dirty Dozen, and then I'll post them up, not you?
Well, you know what? The thing is about this Vermont Landlord Group, we don't need to do that because I try to give landlords
the heads up,
the tools they need to do a better job of screening. And if they follow my criteria and steps, they're going to know.
But maybe if aired out, let everybody know who the Dirty Dozen are, and the Times Argus were to do the same
Google
thing.
Everett Simpson, for instance.
Well, that's just one person, though. Bob.
That's one person, though. I've got, but the thing is, that's one person. But he burned 3 landlords. 3 landlords in this area had to evict him. The other one I'm talking about, 11 landlords. 9.
As if you guys have time for that shit, though.
What's that?
As if you have time for that shit.
Well,
my God.
It doesn't take me long. I have when I screen I have so many questions. I want to know your full name. I want to know everybody that's going to be living with you and get that right out of the way. And then I do my due diligence. Due diligence, that's what it is. Because I'd rather spend a day. I don't care if I got to spend all day to qualify a tenant, so I don't have to spend 6 months to get rid of them. And I'm sorry, that's just what it's come down to. The state is really not supporting the landlords. That we have laws that protect the tenants, and for instance, if a tenant has a habitability issue, let's say the toilet doesn't flush, the landlord needs to address that problem immediately within 24 hours. If he doesn't, the tenant can go hire a plumber and deduct half of the rent to pay that plumber. Mm-hmm. So they have their rights.
Yeah, understand.
And they can withhold all the rent if it's a serious habitability issue.
Yeah. Like the heat.
So they have their rights.
Yeah.
And there's nothing a landlord can do about it. That's the law. But when the tenant doesn't pay you rent because they just don't have it, they decided to do whatever else with it, they don't have any reason for withholding rent. Then the landlord has to go to the courthouse and start. And most of the time, I would give a tenant a whole month. But after a month, hey, because right there, let's say 1,000, you're behind 1,000. Then you got to start the process.
Takes a long time to catch up.
You got to give them 30 days to pay the rent. If they don't, it used to be 14 days, but since COVID, they took that away from us, and it hasn't gone back. So this allows a tenant to get farther behind in rent. So now you got 2 months you haven't received rent. Now you can go down to the courthouse. Now you've got to provide the summons complaint and start the eviction process. So now you've got another month before they get you on the. So there's 3 months. So it's their 3,000. So landlords a lot of times they want to file. They'll say, well, okay, they have to file to pay into court. So what good is that doing a landlord? The landlord's already now at this point, say 3,000, roughly. But now you're not getting any money because the court's saying, well, they've got to pay in the court now. They'll have to pay in the court. Well, they've already got $3,000 ahead, so at that point, they won't have any problem paying,
Can I get you in here again?
Sure.
When do you want to? Another month?
Oh, no. I'll be,
2? Where are you going to go? What the hell's going on? You want to come in here?
I will be gone in a month.
All right. I want to get you back in here, though.
Sure. Well, we'll talk, just let me know.
There's got to be a bill introduced to the legislature.
Something needs to be done.
It's got to be.
Something really needs to be done. Like I said, we were talking about this 26 years ago. We had legal aid come and talk in one of our meetings.
Have you ever had a chance to sit down with Phil Scott? Have a cup of coffee?
No, but I have talked to Phil. I knew Phil 40 years ago. Okay. Phil and I worked together at Bevan Speed and Cycle.
All right.
Imagine that.
Have you requested an opportunity to sit down with him and say, hey, somebody's got to write up a bill here?
Well, Bill, I'm sure he's got his hands full.
Bro,
to say the least. But I'll tell you one thing.
You say the H word, housing, to Phil, and he's paying attention.
Well, the way they're trying to. Can you imagine the way this legislature, these programs, they're paying landlords $50,000 a unit to get their. You say you got a 4-unit, and you want to, and a place is a dump. It's vacant. Well, the state will give you, they got programs where they'll pay you $50,000 a unit to get that property up to par. Can you imagine that? Isn't that responsible spending? I mean, back in the day when my father-in-law was a landlord. He went to the bank and borrowed money, bought a property. I mean, in today's world, it's like, this is how these legislatures and these people are trying to fix, and it's the taxpayers picking up the bill. This is just ungodly, unreasonable spending.
I hate to add to your homework, but you've got some homework to do because you got a lot of comments and questions here that you're going to have to go back and read, Larry. One of them is, have you ever had a situation where the police refused to serve a court summons? And another question, isn't it true that if a tenant leaves the apartment with all of their possessions, the landlord has to store their stuff for a certain amount of time?
They do, 60 days. But if it's an eviction case, it's 15, from what I understand. So they got 15 days we get a store. But if it's a situation where it wasn't an eviction, you've got to store it. Let's say if they just disappeared, you've got to store it for 60 days. What
about police refusing to serve a court summons? Ever happened?
I got this, what I'd like to talk about. Now, this is a landlord that lost his property. This tenant, this landlord was showing an apartment. And so we showed it to probably a handful of people. Well, he went out to Gusto's that night and apparently left the door, didn't lock the door. One of the people that went and looked at the apartment decided to move in and set up camp. Now, this is true. So he gets there and he's saying, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I decided I want the apartment." "What do you mean?" "I showed you the apartment. You didn't fill out an application, nothing." "Well, I want it. I'm taking it." Calls up the Berry City Police. They show up. And he explained to the police officer what was happening. And you know what? They said, "Well, sorry, Mr. So-and-so. This is a civil matter. There's nothing we can do. Civil. It's a civil matter." So they went away. Nothing he could do. So he was, went back to the police, said, "Nope, civil matter." This guy it was so bad. He couldn't believe what just happened. This person moved in, it was a woman, moved in with her kids, just set up camp, and you know what? Nothing he could do about it. He had to go to the court and start an eviction. Well, this guy I believe he was on the edge of having a nerve. He couldn't believe what was happening. He was going after, and you know what? She called the police on him, and they threatened him. "We're gonna arrest you if you don't leave her alone." So, anyways, that was unbelievable. So, I went and I talked to the chief, Tim Bombardier, and I told him, I said, "Is this how you're treating landlords? This lady just moved right in, and you say civil matter?" I said, "That's like pushing the easy button and just walking away." I said, "You know what? This isn't right." So we had quite a conversation, and I probably talked with him for half an hour and told him, landlords need you to support them. So what ended up happening, he actually went and talked to the Attorney General, and he got a little more information on what are the rights of the police department. And he found out that they had every right in the world. This lady was trespassing. She wasn't a squatter. She was trespassing.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of meetings over at Capstone dealing with, landlord tenant stuff. And he was there. And he stated twice. He says, when a lease goes, and this is what landlords need to hear. We do have rights, but we need the police to support us. If somebody is trespassing, they have no title to that apartment. They shouldn't ever say this is a civil matter. They should do their due diligence and say, "Do you have a lease? Do you have an electric bill? Do you have something? Prove that this is your property." So anyways, that's so we learned something out of that.
You got my blood pressure spiking this morning, Larry.
So, anyways, let me add this, JD. So I did some research on this person, and she was in a court case with another gentleman, two other landlords. Went through the eviction, and one of those landlords lost his property because of her. Couldn't deal with it. Walked away from the property. And I can give you the names. I can show you the court docs. So, anyways,
My God.
yeah. So, like I said, like I said, it became so bizarre that how could landlords be treated this bad? So I kind of made it, I kind of made it my mission to do something about it. But JD, I've been doing it for 13 years. I'm getting tired. I'm getting overwhelmed, and this I don't know what more I can do. I've got a lot going on. I've got a business that I started 6-7 years ago, and it takes up all my time. So I don't have the time to do both. So I'm probably going to start selling my properties. Not that I've had a good run, but it's like, at 66, I need to start slowing down.
I'm sure your wife is so happy to hear you say that.
Well, she's the one who wants me to sell the
God,
properties.
buddy.
I don't
Listen.
really want to sell them.
Listen.
Because, again, I've done very well. I've got great tenants.
If I was a book publisher, I would be hitting you up real hard right now to publish a book. I think it would be a bestseller.
Well, there you go.
You got too many stories.
I do.
Larry Lozier, I hope you're going to come back in here, man. Promise me you're going to. Promise everybody right now. Look in the camera. You're going to come back. You're going to come back in here soon.
But the other,
Yes.
yes. The other thing is, I'm not doing it just to hurt tenants. I'm doing it to help both tenants and landlords.
I think so.
If we could change these laws, we can reduce or lower our standards, give tenants a chance. But as long as this eviction process, they keep taking our rights away, it's only going to make it worse, and it's common sense.
Please do what Johnny's doing right now and thanking Larry in the comments for coming on Aired Out this morning. Really appreciate your time, buddy. Get back in here soon, all right?
Will do.
You said it. I'm going to hold you to it.
Okay.
Thanks, Larry.
Yep, you're welcome.